Hi, this is Jack Stanley, and I wanted to talk further on World War I and the naive nature of the American people. Now, World War I is a very, very interesting war because, first off, it's a war of technology, as I have just recently spoken about. But the thing is that's most fascinating about it is the fact on the other side of the pond, as we like to put it back in the old days, we didn't know. We had no idea what exactly was going on in Europe. You had the Germans and the English basically fighting against each other and using various terms of endearment for each other in a rather sarcastic way. And we in the United States were kind of stuck in the middle, but we weren't exactly, because we, as early 1915, we were supporting the Allies and lying to the Germans. But that's not important. That's not what I want to talk about. I want to talk about some of the naive nature. You have to remember, in the United States, in 1915, let's just put it 1915, we really had not been in a major war since the American Civil War, which was 50 years earlier. We did have what was called the Spanish-American War, which lasted a couple of months. As John Hay, who was William McKinley's Secretary of State, said, it was a splendid little war. It created the careers of Theodore Roosevelt. In fact, he got the Congressional Medal of Honor eventually for the Battle of San Juan Hill, which he was never on, but that's another story altogether. One of the things that I find most fascinating about World War I was the effect that Tin Pan Alley had on the war. We had so many songs. All of them were so incredibly innocent and naive sounding. Oh, we don't want the bacon. We don't want the bacon. What we want is a piece of the Rhine. We'll then hit the Kaiser on the head and make him wiser. We'll have a wonderful time. That's one of the songs. That's one of the lyrics. It's absolute nonsense. What we were getting into was one of the most devastating wars in the history of man. We forget the fact that there was gas being sprayed back and forth between the trenches. Mustard gas, nerve gas, which was devastating. Yet the songs continued. Goodbye, Broadway. Hello, France. We're 10 million strong. Well, yes, we were. But it wasn't a game. It wasn't a party. It wasn't fun. It was a struggle. It was a struggle for life. A lot of people were killed. I have a personal recollection from that. And that is my grandfather on my mother's side. William Henry Rothmeyer was his name. He joined the war in 1917. Before he did, he wanted to get all dolled up, and he got himself a nice outfit, got himself a stick pin, and a ring. And that ring would save his life. He fought in all the campaigns, was in the trenches. 2 days before the war would end, on November the 9th, 1918, he was hit by shrapnel. It tore the back of his leg apart. Hit an artery. He went into convulsions and laid down under the bushes to hide. I guess, to die. And as he did, there was a reflection from a ring that was on his finger. I wear this ring today. It was his ring that he wore in 1917. It's kind of hard to see it, but this is that ring, and it hit the sunlight in certain ways and caught the attention of another individual who saw it. And that brought him over to him, and he put a gun on his leg and made a tourniquet to stop the bleeding. Saved his life. My grandfather wore this ring for the rest of his life and gave it to me shortly before he died. And I've worn it ever since. That ring that he bought in 1917, it's 100 years old now. Saved his life. But how many people lost their lives? How many terrible things happened to people who were getting into the war? And listen to the music. Over there. Oh, it was all a big party. And if you think about it, World War I was the last war in which we had this naive type of music. Because the 20th century would usher in a whole new age of warfare. And the old age of the music would be one of its first casualties. Because by the time you get to World War II, yes, there are songs, but they are not of the naive nature of World War I. World War I was the war to end all wars. And yet, all those people died. Millions of people died. Millions of people were affected. Millions of people were maimed. And sadly, the war to end all wars, as Woodrow Wilson put it, was just a precursor to a century of more carnage, more mayhem, more murder, more death than any war. You know, there were more soldiers killed in World War I than in World War II. There were more civilians killed in World War II, which is a direct result of World War I. And of course the Treaty of Versailles afterwards, which was basically a disaster in the making, caused many of the great wars to come in the future. So the music that we hear today dealing with warfare is nothing. It's the music of silence, the music of resistance. And even Irving Berlin, in 1914 into 1915, wrote a song called Stay Down Here Where You Belong, which was a song written, it's an amazing song. It's a totally forgotten song, but its words were, and I'll tell you the words because I know the words. One of the first anti-war songs, and most poignant. Down below, sat the devil talking to his son, who wanted to go up above. Up above. It's getting too warm for me down here, and though I want to go on earth where I can have a lot of fun, the devil shook his head, and then he answered his son, stay down here where you belong. The folks who live above you don't know right from wrong. To please their kings, they've all gone off to war, and not a one of them knows what they're fighting for. They say above that I'm the devil and I'm bad. Kings pigs. Up there are bigger devils than your dad. They're breaking the hearts of mothers, making butchers out of brothers. You'll find more hell up there than you will down below. If there was ever a better description of World War I can't think of it. Because truly, hell was a peaceful place compared to what World War I on Earth was. And so the naive nature was gone. The world changed forever. America changed forever. Europe changed forever. And we as a people, we as a race, changed forever. There's nothing good about it. It was an awful war, and a war that never, ever should have taken place. That's about all I have to say. Thank you.